January 19th meeting of the Cabrillo Unified School District Governing Board. And we will start with our opening of business. 1A, calling public session to order, which I'm hereby doing at 6 p.m. And 1B, roll call and quorum. Rosie, please.
Thank you, Sophia. Sophia?
Here.
Kimberly?
Here.
Carmen? It's not here yet. Lisette? Not here yet. Mary Beth?
Here.
And Catalina?
Okay, so with 3 out of 5,
quorum.
we have quorum. Okay, thank you, Rosie. 1C, Pledge of Allegiance. Catalina, please, the honors.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Item number 2, approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved. Seconded.
You guys are going to do this for a while. All right. Rosie?
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Mary Beth. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Passes 3+1.
Okay, and item number 3, communications. We'll start with public comments. I have one, and that is, I believe, the open session, Kendra? Okay, great. So Kendra Holland, overcommitted mama, is here to speak with us. So I also want to just remind the public, hold on, I have my quick notes as we open up our public comments section, that public comments, agenda items, hearings, and other agenda items are an opportunity to provide a comment to the board. Kendra, you know this, but I'm going to read it for everybody anyway. We allow 3 minutes per person and up to 20 minutes in total for all the speakers, with the opportunity to extend this time at the discretion of the board president and consent of the board. I'd like to ask members of the public who share the same viewpoint, please select a few individuals to address the board on behalf of that viewpoint so that we can conduct our business in an effective and efficient manner as is in the public's best interest. Typically, the board cannot respond to comments other than referring matters to staff or follow-up, though please also feel free, if we do not do so explicitly, to follow up with Dr. McFetridge directly sometime after the meeting if you would like to share or receive further information. So I don't think this will be an issue tonight, because we have one speaker. 3 minutes. Kendra, please.
Thank you. Do I need to hit anything or I'm ready to rock? Yay. Good evening. Democracy is not a spectator sport. It's a participatory event. If we don't participate in it, it ceases to be a democracy. Michael Moore. Among the responsibilities of a representative in a participatory democracy is keeping ourselves sufficiently informed so that we can participate effectively, argue our own positions honorably, and hopefully forge sufficient consensus to understand each other and then to govern. Ben Sass. To all the ladies in the place with the style and grace, I hear ya. Biggie Smalls. I know we've all heard that too many cooks in the kitchen ruin the soup. However, when making consequential decisions, it's important to gather the opinions of all stakeholders. Board members and other attendees should be able to see the faces and hear the voices of those making public comments, not just listen to previously submitted statements read quickly without emotion. Since COVID, much of our lives have moved online. By holding only in-person meetings, vital perspectives are excluded. I am asking the Cabrillo Unified School District to please return the governing board meetings to a format that allows remote participation, not just passive viewing through a streaming service, but a medium where everyone may fully contribute and engage without paying for childcare or fighting hypothermia. Thank you.
Thank you, Kendra.
I'm sorry, we do have another speaker who this is his first time.
Okay, can you could just bring, or give Rosie the card. Thank you. Okay, hold on 1 second so I can introduce you.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is Thomas Walrod. I will say you're a teacher at Half Moon Bay High School.
Yes.
Okay, great. So 3 minutes, Mr. Walrod.
Thank you. So, to everyone here, just to repeat, my name is Thomas Walrod. I'm an English and ELD teacher at the high school, and I want to talk to us a little bit today regarding not only teacher retainment, but also teacher salaries at the Cabrillo Unified School District. I'm new to the district, a year and a half, and when considering where to teach almost 2 years ago, my main concern for teaching in a school district was one thing: community. I wasn't concerned about the student population, the location. I wanted to be involved in the community. I grew up just off Sharp Park Road in Pacifica, and my family has huge ties to the coast side. My grandpa was a sheriff who oversaw a lot of the drag races at the former airport. My dad used to organize car shows in the coast side. We love it here, and I'm honored to be a part of the coast side community. That is why I applied and ultimately got the job at Half Moon Bay High School. My experience so far has been one where the community has welcomed me. But I've also noticed something else. The community continues to need strong, capable, and dependable teachers because of the new roles education is going. We're not just educators. We're ensuring the safety of children. For everyone that hasn't watched the news lately, there was a shooting in Virginia of a first grade teacher. The role of a teacher is not just to educate, but to ensure the children's safety. The teaching field has become one where we need that responsibility, and we need to be ensured of our safety. I want to ensure for my fellow colleagues that our safety is one where we're not concerned coming into school every day, where we feel that we are recognized. Over the last 2 years, I've seen coworkers already talking about leaving. Last year, first-year teacher ended up leaving after 1 year of teaching at Half Moon Bay High School. Our school has seen turnover that is not only alarming, but endangering to the community. I believe that by investing more in our teachers, not just monetarily, but also in terms of resources, in terms of classroom safety, I believe that we not only will create a better school district, but a better coastside community. So please, in regards to the salary scale, in regards to the teachers, I implore not only the board and the governing body, but please consider the future of not just your teachers, but our coastside community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Walrod. Okay, that brings us to item 3B, Employee Organizations Report. First, we have CUTA.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Claudia Lunstroth, CUTA co-president and English teacher and yearbook teacher at the high school.
And I'm Kathleen Wall. I'm the CUTA bargaining chair and kindergarten teacher at Hatch Elementary. Double trouble tonight.
I'm going to have some of my own comments, and then I have some comments from other teachers who couldn't be here tonight. And then Ms. Wall will speak. So I have a series of questions to ask tonight. One is, why do our central office leaders not care about breaking the contract and the ed code? One of the contract issues concerns athletic coaches. The ed code issue concerns notifying teachers of potentially dangerous students. Breaking this particular ed code, 49079, is a misdemeanor punishable by jail time or fines. Why does the central office blame teachers for fictitious low bank balances? The district has millions of dollars it could and should be using for the students. Students who, evidence shows, need qualified, dedicated teachers. Why do so many Cabrillo teachers feel overwhelmed? Why is it so easy for the board and the central office to dismiss the expertise of teachers? We provide direct services to students. We learn from them every day. We learn what their needs are every day. Yet our opinions, our views are dismissed. Why do negotiations happen every year? Does it have anything to do with teachers feeling overwhelmed? Can we learn from Pescadero? And as I've said before, and was said by someone else tonight, why aren't the board meetings hybrid? I think it would increase attendance, which is obviously important for all of us. I am here, again, asking these questions for the same reason I'm a teacher, because I have hope in people despite everything. Thank you for listening. And now some comments from some other teachers. Brittany Jolivet, a counselor at the high school. I love the COSIDE and the relationships I've built as a school counselor, but if we don't get a raise, I might have to move out of the Bay Area. I've had a great time with my students and families that I have counseled, and I would be sad to go. Thank you for your time and hearing my comment. Claire Gould, art teacher at the high school. Other districts have chosen to work with and for teachers, giving raises and bonuses. We have to fight for everything. How do you expect teachers to support themselves and their families without a raise when the cost of living constantly rises every year? Thank you. Carrie DiMartini at the high school. Inflation was close to 10% over the last year. Gas prices have gone up. My utilities have raised their rates. The bread I bought for years cost almost $2 more than it did a couple of years ago. By CUSD not giving a raise, you are essentially giving us a pay cut. South City Unified, who had salaries comparable to CUSD, just announced a 13% raise. Where is ours? With so many teachers leaving the profession these days, any one of us could find an open position within 15 miles of here with higher salary and better benefits. The high school has lost close to 40% of teachers to turnover in the last 5 years. That's 29 teachers who have left for better situations. Is this something CUSD is proud of? If not, show those who are still here you appreciate them by approving a raise. Marlena Moran Ramirez from Hatch. Yearly negotiations cost the district time and lawyers' fees and cost teachers personal time. Wanting the best for students means wanting the best for teachers. Stop the emotional roller coaster year after year and consider the cost of living on the coast and how that equates to the needs of your teachers. Our students deserve a local, dedicated staff. You have the ability in your hands to provide them such. Do the right thing. Okay, I'll just read. And one more from Molly Shower at the high school and at Pilarcitos. Good evening. I submitted this comment tonight as a member not only of the COSIDE community, but as a teacher both at Half Moon Bay High School and Pilarcitos, and the mother of 2 children enrolled in the Spanish immersion program at Hatch. I care deeply about our COSIDE community, our students, and our staff, and that is why I'm taking this opportunity to say that enough is enough. We have been waiting long enough. The time has come for the district to show our staff members that we are valued, respected, and irreplaceable. I've been teaching in this district for 5 years, and over those 5 years, I've seen numerous teachers come and go. They leave for a variety of reasons, but the most glaringly obvious reason is that the salaries in this district do not match, nor even come close to the salaries necessary to match the cost of living in the Bay Area. Just last week, I had to explain to my 7-year-old daughter why she cannot enroll in gymnastics, because Mommy and Daddy can't afford it. I have had to explain to my 6-year-old son why we cannot go to Disneyland with his cousin, because we cannot afford it. Then I make scrambled eggs for dinner at the end of the month because we have backyard chickens, and those are free, and I cannot afford another trip to Safeway. The future of this district, the happiness, prosperity, and long-term success of our students, our school, and our community depend on your response to this financial, social, and emotional crisis. We are hanging by a thread. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. I'm Kathleen Wall. I'm the bargaining chair. Welcome, Ms. Daniel Carmen. The rest of you know me, and I need my glasses. I missed the December board meeting. I was visiting with family, with my son and daughter-in-law, and I read the packet, and I started watching the school board meeting, and my daughter-in-law walked in and said to me, "That's a January problem. Please set it aside." So here I am, it's January, and it is a January problem. After watching the December board meeting and reading the packet, there are so many things I want to say to the board. There are facts and figures I want to share with you. But there's not enough time in this forum. I do want you to know that I've been the CUTA bargaining chair, and I've been on the bargaining team for over 15 years, and I do understand these budgets as well. We have our own CUTA, CTA accountants, and we've all been trained in how to look at budgets and understand budgets. But I'm going to go back to my job, which is, you've all heard about PBIS that we use at the school. Here are the 4 Bs. Be safe, be responsible, be respectful, and be kind. In the last board presentation, there were 2 break with the Bs. Be respectful and be kind. And I have here, I'm going to hold up, and this is no offense to anybody who put it together, because I always say you have to think. This slide, page 8, CUSD salary increases in recent years. This took up a whole slide, as if this is the thing that is depleting the district's reserves. It's fascinating that the workers seem to be the villains in the financial reports put out by the central office. As I've shown you, there's an entire slide in the unaudited actuals showing an 11.29 salary increase for CUTA and CSEA between 2019 and 2022. There's also a mention of it in the audit report. My question is, didn't everybody in the district get a raise, not just CSEA and CUTA? The teachers, whether you take it this way or not, the teachers take this as a disrespectful and unkind act. It's no wonder that our members believe the district's anti-teacher and anti-worker. It's incredibly sad. The district's reserves were not depleted because of an increase to a more competitive wage. There were a variety of expenditures made last year, including books and supplies and outside services that also depleted the reserves. Anyway, back to the slide. It was standard throughout the Bay Area for COVID dollars to be given as bonuses to employees who had direct interaction with children and therefore the most risk to receive a bonus. In fact, the majority of these COVID bonuses were given at the start of the 2021 school year to boost morale after the difficulties of the pandemic. People coming back and being afraid that they were going to become ill. And most of us did, of course. Cabrillo didn't offer these bonuses right off because morale is not a priority. But I digress. The $2,000 bonuses came out of one-time COVID dollars and should not be impacting the general fund moving forward. Please be mindful that all of the raises on this slide came after impasse and mediation. The fact is that as soon as a neutral outside party looked at the district's financials, they ruled in favor of the workers. Yet, under this administration, we fight every year about money. Let us be plain. To attract and retain qualified instructors, CUSD needs to increase teacher salaries by big percentages because its starting salary is near the bottom of surrounding districts. The long-term stated goal of our union, CUTA, has been to lift the salary schedule to be competitive with surrounding districts. The reason CUSD must give large raises is because it is playing catch-up with other local districts. And we've brought this up over time, several times, about we just wanted to be similar to San Mateo Foster City because San Mateo Foster City was like Cabrillo for many years, and then the board decided to prioritize salaries. So the fact is your revenues have been increasing over the past 5 years. In 2017-18, your total revenues were $36 million. Right now, your first interim report shows $49 million. That's including the one-time, well, the block grants. However, those block grants can be used for a variety of things as well. Instructional learning, accelerating progress, tutoring, class size reduction. So for many years now, the central office has been warning of a fiscal crisis, yet revenues have increased every year. And in the January budget, the government did not cut education funding. This, to me, and we've said this before, is not a revenue crisis, it's a budgeting crisis. It is plain to us, while looking at the 22-23 budget and the first interim unaudited actuals, that teacher salaries are not a priority. According to your September 22-23 budget, the certificated bargaining unit, when you break it out, because we break it out by object codes, you have it just as certificated salaries. Its certificated salaries includes administrative positions as well. So you can break it out by object codes. And when you break them out by the certificated bargaining units, which is CUTA, you budgeted for approximately $14.9 million. And your first interim unaudited projection shows $14.2 million. That's a difference of $657,000 down. You're projected to be that much under what you budgeted for in September. The administrative salaries with their object codes 1300 and 2300 were approximately $2.6 million is what was budgeted in September. And the first interim unaudited projection for the end of the year is that it would be $3.4 million, which is over $764,998. So $750,000 more is projected to be paid out in administrative salaries. There is a certain amount of dollars of total outgo that should go to teacher salaries, and it's somewhere between like 34, higher, some districts go up to 39%. And, where's my, pardon me. So, originally the teacher, when budgeted, the teacher salaries for outgo was going to be approximately 33% of the budget, and now it's less than 30%. So you're not even hitting a 30% standard based on your unaudited actuals. As I said, again, this is a budgeting crisis, not a revenue crisis. More administrative positions are being created and approved by the governing board. Question is, why aren't these dollars being used to fund competitive teacher salaries? Or lowering class size, or adding credentialed content specialists at our high priority schools? These are questions that need to be asked by the board and answered by administration. So this is just a generic statement. Over 88% of teachers identify better pay as the top priority state and local officials should prioritize in order to improve teacher retention, followed by smaller class sizes, stronger discipline policies for students who behave disruptively, better staffing, and a more manageable workload and more support services for students. And some final thoughts. The last two bargaining cycles have led to impasse. Why is this happening? CUTA and CUSD had not been to impasse in over 30 years before 2020. Though a 11.29% salary increase over 4 years sounds huge, CUSD is still among the lowest paid districts on the peninsula. In a comparison array with with peninsula schools, we were number 9 out of number 10, San Bruno Park being the lowest. To attract and retain teachers, it's in the best interest of the district to settle the next round of salary negotiations swiftly. So I just want to say thank you for listening to me. I'm always happy if anybody has questions about numbers. I've never had a board member come and talk to me, or I don't even think Sean and Claudia about numbers. We do know things about education policy. We do know things about finance. And I thank Kendra for standing up and asking for the hybrid board meetings, because I think we've asked for that from every meeting, since every meeting starting in August. And it looked cold at the last meeting, and I didn't bring my blanket, but I did make myself some soup, and I'm going to go home and finish watching you on TV. And also, so I don't have to sit here and listen to the comments thrown back at me from the front of the room. So thank you very much.
Thank you both. All right, that brings us to CSCA. Diane?
Good evening. CSEA has presently been working on repairing our maintenance and custodial staff, repairing storm damages. And that's the status of CSEA. And thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you very much, Diane. All right, that brings us to item 3C, board members report. I'm just going to open it up to volunteers. Who wants to go first? Mary Beth?
I'll go. I just want to say thank you to all staff. Everybody's been working hard. It's January, it's the beginning of the year. And I just want to say I'm really excited about this year. I see a lot of stuff coming together that people have been working hard on for a long time. We'll see some of that tonight with our new IT stuff that's coming. And I want people to know that I did get an email from one of the people on that IT pilot committee encouraging me to vote yes for it. And I know new things are going to come with some pain, and it's hard to learn new systems and hard to learn new ways. But I think in the long run, it's going to be better. So a little pain now to make things better in the long run. And I just want to say I'm thankful that people are emailing me with their comments about things that are coming up in the board meetings. I'm happy to know that, especially from our teachers and especially from people that are spending time on those extra committees. And I think of this year kind of, Leticia, you had in your presentation, you had a picture of a closet, and it showed it really messy. It was like a pantry in your kitchen, and there was a really messy picture, and then there's a really clean picture, and then there was kind of one in the middle where it was kind of cleaned up, and Leticia said, this is where we are now. We're kind of in the middle. You know, we don't have our pantry cleaned up. It's not totally in order. But I have to say, my last 4 years on the board, I feel like I came into a messy pantry, and it's kind of getting, in order. And it's kind of been long enough now to really see those changes that have been made and see it happening. Because for so long, it takes a long time, and for so long, it just looked like, are we ever going to get there? Are things ever going to start getting better? And we have a long ways to go, I know, but I feel like our staff is doing a really good job and really working hard, everyone. And I appreciate that, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen this year, because I feel like things are starting to come around and change for good, in a good way. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary Beth. Anybody want to go next? Otherwise, I could just call on people at random.
Happy New Year, everybody. It's feels like yesterday that we were here in December because the holidays went so fast and 3 weeks of rain and travel disruptions just prior to that. I feel like the third day of sunshine and my head's starting to shake off. I actually appreciated all of the public comments tonight very much. My holidays were spent with my sister-in-law and friends in Arizona that I went to college with that are also teachers. And it's, you know, it's a lot of similarities to comments we heard tonight and that need for salary. The piece of I do recognize that each of us, when we're walking around this elephant, each have our hand on a different piece and different information. And the piece that I want to the public to know that I will continue pursuing is with Senator Becker's office. It was last month that we noted that we're going from basic aid back to LCFF funding. And that's a fur ball in my throat because that means we have somewhere between 15 and 20% less spending power because we have lower funds. And around the Bay Area, it's apples and oranges. Some that are on basic funding have more tax revenue if you're from Palo Alto or Burlingame. But then if the parcel taxes that we have differ. And so I certainly will be paying attention and promise all the teachers to keep looking carefully at the budget and trying to understand better. But that cost of living index, you know, I wish someone would come along and sue the state just for equity because it is not equitable here in the Bay Area. And Cabrillo feels it probably worse than most districts in the Bay Area because we are one of these few flipper districts. So that's the one piece of the puzzle that I will continue to work with. I did notify Senator Becker's office last month and Joan Dentler, who was here for Freya's retirement celebration, let me know that the education analyst that was in their office has left to take another job, and I don't know if that role has been replaced yet. So please know that I will be diligent in helping to frame that situational awareness to show what these numbers mean. So my hope is that we can continue to advocate for better base funding that will in turn help our teachers. And so anyways, that's just one piece of the puzzle I will continue working on. And yeah, thank you everybody for being here. I know it's a heavy lift for everyone. And oh, one other thing, I wanted to after last month's meeting, when we came up with all of the committees, I did hear from the public a suggestion that we have a special ed committee. And I don't know if we need a committee or if we just simply need to revisit that this year. We do have significant funds and resources that go towards special ed. And I think it's helpful for all of the board in terms of orientation, just to be reminded. So I just wanted to acknowledge that that was a conversation I had between last month and this month. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Kim. Lizette or Carmen? Lizette, you want to go? We'll see. Carmen.
I'll go. This month has been kind of crazy for me. I've just been trying to just bear with my own personal stuff. With the rain, I live on Oak, which was severely flooded, and we had a lot to deal with. And then also just getting to and from work has been extremely difficult. So I apologize for my tardiness today as well. And I just hope that we can start to clean up and just try and get back to some more normalcy. We do need water, but it was a little too much. I will, with what I heard from Ms. Wall, I will make it a point to continue to study and learn and understand the budget. Thankfully, Jesus has always been super understanding, super patient, and extremely helpful in understanding this. So I'm looking forward to that. And maybe, I will reach out to Ms. Wall or one of those teachers to see a little bit about their perspective, because like our superintendent always says, there are always many truths to any particular topic we're talking about. So thank you, everybody, for being here. And yeah, I'm so happy we have a heater in the back. I completely understand too about the going back to hybrid or online, and I mean, a personal level, it didn't affect me because I don't have the space at home, so I always would go to the district office. But I do see both points. It's one of those things where it's like, yes, COVID is over, but we have learned to do things in a different way, and it has been helpful for a lot of different reasons for different people. Thank you.
Thank you, Lizette. Carmen?
Good evening. Also, apologies for my tardiness. I could not find my shoes. It's been one of those weeks. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you, all the public commenters. It's so important to hear everybody's perspectives on these very complicated issues. Anyway, I'll keep my comments short. Thank you, Happy New Year, and I'm looking forward to serving you this year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carmen. I'm glad you found your shoes and you're able to join us. That's fantastic. Okay, so welcome back, everybody. 2023 definitely came in roaring, which we're hoping, I think, for a nice quiet return for once, but it is what it is. I appreciate Lizette mentioning the devastation a lot of our families on the coast side have been experiencing, and many from low-income communities, Moonridge and elsewhere as well. So I think that really gives us good perspective. Also want to thank Diane for referencing the really hard work of our maintenance crews and a lot of the staff and our administrators, especially trying to navigate that. Are we going to have power or not? And our teachers teaching whether or not we had power, especially up at Farallon View. I know that was an issue in El Granada. So everybody, and I know I have a friend who's a teacher, and we were texting the night before, and she's like, I'm just going to go good old-fashioned paper and pencil, math teacher. I'm like, that's cool, like yay, that's kind of refreshing. It's nice. So I think she really made lemonade out of lemons, which is really cool. So just want to acknowledge all those huge efforts, because it feels like a million years ago, and it was pretty much yesterday, it was still raining. So also was able to catch the briefing from CSBA on Governor Newsom's proposed budget. School budgets in California are incredibly complicated, so you see a lot of things go up and down, but really I think in the net is going to be what Jesus presents to us each time he presents to us. What does it all mean for us? Because there are a lot of devils in the details that when we can look at things, when we grab numbers from here and there that get lost, things like restricted funding, and how I know many of our administrator positions are supported by grants. Things like that really do matter. Things like COVID relief funding and the millions and millions of dollars in our budget over the last few years that have strict uses as per federal or state law for COVID pandemic relief. I think those are big and important details to keep in mind as we analyze budgets. So I'm grateful that we have staff that former calculus teacher knows math pretty darn well, I would say, and also understands equity and the importance of really putting our money where our mouth is when we think about our students that need the extra supports, that we have that leadership here. So I am looking forward to working with CSB and their legislative committee. I've had some preliminary conversations with their staffers that go and meet with the governor's staff and the governor and legislators, and really explaining to them, because we're a little bit unique in San Mateo County compared to a lot of California, because we are such a high cost of living area here and in San Diego. Things are a little bit different for us here because of of that because, as Kim's pointed out before as well, state funding is not calibrated to cost of living locally. So we get the same money here as we would if we were in Humboldt County, which is, substantially lower cost of living. So our increases don't go as far. That's the net, and also explain to one of our chief advocates there, who's the main budget advocate, that the differences within San Mateo County per pupil funding are upwards of threefold differences. And I'm talking like a unified district compared to an elementary school district on these beautiful ranches, south of town. It's a threefold difference. It's astonishing. And so I think I'm really excited in working with that legislative committee to have them help our legislators and help our governor understand those nuances and to navigate the politics around making sure that we don't get left behind as a less wealthy, not wealthy, I would say, district within a very wealthy county. So devil's in the details. Again, I've studied this stuff inside and out. I would invite anyone who's interested in public school funding in California, give me a call. You know where to find me. I'll talk your ear off, but if you're okay with that, I'll buy you coffee. We'll, I don't know if that's legally allowed, but, we'll have coffee and we'll talk because there's a lot that's not apparent on the surface. So anyway, I'm excited next week to be joining the Chamber of Commerce for their annual State of the Coast side and giving them a little bit of snippets of what's happening in our schools. I think there's a lot of excitement around that. So if you're interested in listening in or joining, actually it's in person at Mezzaluna, January 25th, 12 to 1:30 p.m. I think they have like a registration link on their website that you can sign up, RSVP. I'm also excited to be working with San Mateo County School Board's colleagues, with folks there. I'm serve as the vice president for that organization, and we are preparing a meeting for our general members, which are board members across the county, on the topic of equity. And I think we have some real heavy hitters on this kind of planning committee from Jefferson Union and from Sequoia and from San Mateo Union and San Mateo County Office of Education. And it's really exciting because I think as we were talking about this meeting, there are a lot of ways you can talk about equity, but at the bottom line, unless you talk about bias and particularly implicit bias, it's hard for those initiatives to really come to fruition and have effects. So we're going to hear from a school district in Santa Clara County around ways that they've had those hard conversations about bias and things that we do or say or don't say that do inflict harm on students that need our help more than ever. So I'll bring to this group kind of a report back on that. And hopefully you guys all can attend because you're all invited as school board members. So watch your email inbox. You're probably getting a lot, Carmen. Okay, so I also want to thank Mary Beth for her comments on getting the pantry in order. I think that's super important, and I'm so appreciative of Leticia on the curriculum side, Jesus on the operations and finance side. I just came from a health and wellness meeting at Half Moon Bay High School before here, and we were talking about PBIS implementation and how big of an effort that is to culturally change the fabric of what we do, not just like adding another program, but really thinking about how we do the basics in terms of our relationships with students. So I think that's really exciting. So that's all I have for this month. So thank you very much. And with that, we'll go to our student board member, Catalina.
Yeah, it was definitely crazy for students too. I've not handwritten that much homework since probably the third grade. So I got work on my handwriting. So I'm going to go through the schools. At El Granada, they kicked off 2023 with a refocus on PBIS. We had a PBIS assembly for the first week of school and are working towards earning a bubble party with demonstrating swim behavior in the lunchroom. We had a recycling and waste sorting assembly last week, and our students are hoping to get greener waste management in place on campus. Our construction committee has reconvened after this afternoon, and we are looking forward to being entertained by the Harlem Wizards during our assembly tomorrow. At Fairlawn View, in spite of the inclement weather and related challenges, Fairlawn View students have made the best of our rainy January school days. This week, students are studying their spelling words in preparation for a classroom spelling bee to be followed by a school-wide spelling bee the following week. Next week, we will launch our Great Kindness Challenge with kindness checklists in an interactive banner. At Kings Mountain, students will work on Unit 5 benchmark featuring technology. Kiddos made thoughtful holiday cards for senior COSID Meals on Wheels recipients, and kindergarten and first grade students made ornaments for the MacDucha Park Night of Lights holiday tree. A downed tree and a mudslide impacted our site, and COSID students attended the Cunha Hub while the other half were at school one day. At Cunha Intermediate, we had several challenges with the weather and rainy lunches, as well as families affected by the storm. Ultimately, the beginning of the third quarter got off to a wonderful start. Since the last board meeting, the visual arts classes completed the mural, and we have a chicken coop for the agricultural science classes. This week, our 7th and 8th grade basketball teams are heading to playoffs next week, and 6th grade basketball tryouts are starting. At Half Moon Bay High School, our teacher-led tutoring program after 6th period and during 7th period is starting. The counselors launched D&S monitoring programs at the beginning of second semester to support student learning and increase students meeting the A-G requirements. And lastly, at Pilarcitos, on Wednesday and Thursday this week, Pilarcitos hosted a fantastic restorative justice practices training for district admin, teachers, and support staff. Trainers came from San Mateo County Office of Education. 3 of our Pilarcitos students participated, as they have a great deal of experience with restorative circles, and their insights were very valuable. And that's it.
Thank you, Catalina. Okay, 3E, Superintendent Report.
As always, a hard act to follow. Catalina pretty much takes all the details that I would want to share. It was great to, and welcome back, Catalina, and thank you for using pen and paper for your homework. I say that and somewhat in jest, but I recognize that this was a great struggle to return to the school year in January, when the superintendent of San Mateo County Office of Education, Nancy McGee, sort of like called us on vacation and said, hey, stay tuned, we're gonna need to talk. You know, we had this terrible, terrible weather New Year's Eve. I think it was the most rain that San Francisco had seen in 150 years historically, and then it just kept coming. I want to thank people for their flexibility and their resilience and their grace during this time. I appreciated speaking to Diane Powley and Sean Reardon, CSEA leader, and one of Claudia Lundstra's CUTA co-presidents. When I had to make the call to them before we announced to all staff, and then announced to families, we will need to close not last Thursday, but the Thursday before. It is true that at Fairlawn View, we were without power, and I want to thank Jaime Rico and Jesus Contreras for being able to hear me and say, can we get a generator there and get that power restored? Even this I think Sunday night, Aaron O'Connor Brown was emailing me, and or Monday night, Aaron O'Connor Brown at El Granada was emailing me and Jesus and saying, hey, it looks like power's out again. And we were prepared to pivot and try to work on that, but luckily it was restored. This has been a very challenging time. As Catalina brought up, Martha Ladd, who serves as director of, sort of educational support services, special education, and principal at Kings Mountain, along with Debbie Silvera as their lead teacher, I mean, they had to be very resilient, and people literally could not get to the school. We had to open up at the community hub building right here on the Cunha campus. That said, we keep going, we keep moving, and I want to thank the resilience of our staff, our teachers, our classified staff, our administrators, our families, our students for keeping this going. And then as far as the comments, I've been sort of admonished, or I would say I've been reminded by the board members to not comment specifically to what was said earlier in the comments. But what I will say is we did get a budget meeting last month. There is a new budget update from Governor Newsom as of, 3 or 4 days ago. This all is in flux and will be in flux. It does look like the Prop 98 guarantee will hold for school funding, but it is a wait and see as the governor and the legislature are now sort of like arm wrestle as they do until June or July, and then we will really know what our funding is. But at the last board meeting, we did show that in the third out year, I think we have like an $800,000 shortfall. That may be repaired, that may be taken care of with a cost of living adjustment. That may be okay. I think we have to wait and see. And so I know there are many truths, as Lizette reminds me of me reminding you. There are many truths in the world. A lot of this is based on data, and we try to present data, and we hope that people will dig deep into that data and that we can talk about the data, but the numbers are the numbers. On the consent agenda tonight, we do have our annual proclamation adopting February as African American History Month. I do want to make a point of saying that. We try to call out these consent items. All these proclamations for our protected classes have gone to consent after a couple years of being in public session, but I do want to mark all the contributions that we should celebrate and acknowledge in African American History Month in February. There's a Future Farmers of America field trip that's being approved, and it was great to see one of our ag science teachers today, and she came last month to talk about new coursework that we're talking about, infusing business, entrepreneurship, and more science into ag science, so I really appreciate their work, and it was nice to connect with her. The ethnic studies course and text adoption that was presented as a public hearing in December, that is being proposed as approval on the consent agenda. The school accountability report, and I just want to say, I think the ethnic studies is very important to us also. I think this is a fantastic, I'm glad that the Half Moon Bay High School, whether it's Patrick Olson, Mr. Galvin, Mr. Van Wygarden, the administration there have worked to get this ready for the fall. School accountability report cards. This is always a fun one. We put that in consent. It's so many pages, and quite frankly, a lot of it is to be determined because the state says we can't miss this deadline, and yet they don't provide us the data by which to have a complete SARC. So there are a bunch of SARCs on the consent agenda. As always, there are personnel reports, and there is the warrant report and the audit report for business. And the quarterly report on William uniform complaints and the minutes. Tonight we will hear from Mr. Clinton. I really appreciate the work you've done here this year, Jeff, along with your new dean, Victor Guzman Contreras, and your assistant principal, Litzaway Dunaway. We did make an investment in increased administration here at Cunha Intermediate School as well as at the high school. I think that has paid off this year. I think the truth of the matter is we have invested and made bets to provide extra support to our schools, and I think that's a good thing, and I've been pleased with Mr. Clinton, your work here, and I am looking forward to your presentation. And then we have a presentation from Stig Lin, who's our technology director, who's worked with Yannis, I'm gonna get this wrong, Oroncensus, I can't say his name. It's a Greek name, I bet Sophia could say it. I think it's Oroncensus, but anyway, so Yannis and Stig have done, I think, a very good job of including teacher representatives and other representatives, administrators in the recommendation of a new student information system, which was very fragmented and splintered before, and so I look forward to seeing that. As always, I welcome people back to a new year. I am grateful for the resilience, the strength, the flexibility, the patience, and the understanding and kindness you all show all of us. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McFetridge. It's Yannis Oronitsas. Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ.
Thank you for the correct pronunciation.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, so that brings us to item number 4, consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve? Do we have a second?
Second.
Rosie?
Thank you, Mary Beth. Thank you, Kimberly. This is a roll call vote. Sophia?
Aye.
Kimberly?
Aye.
Carmen?
Aye.
Lisette? Mary Beth?
Aye.
Catalina? This item passes 5+1.
Thank you, Rosie. Okay, so 5, general business. 5A, Cunha Intermediate School presentation. Do we have an introduction for Mr. Clinton, or?
Mr. Clinton, I think I already kind of introduced him, but Jeff, come on up. Thank you so much. As people have heard before, Jeff was a teacher here previously. He was a principal in the East Bay, I think, in Richmond, Contra Costa County previously, originally from Illinois, I think. There's my introduction.
Okay.
And an all-around stand-up guy. Jeff, thank you so much.
No, President Lane, members of the board, Dr. McFetridge, colleagues, community members, and parents that I know several parents here tonight, even though there's not a lot of folks here tonight. My name is Jeff Clinton. I'm the principal at Cunha. And like Dr. McFetridge said, we have a great new assistant principal and a fantastic dean of students. We also have a new counselor. So we've added 2 bilingual folks to the main office, and that's made an incredible improvement with communication with parents and the community. This is the agenda tonight. I know I got to keep this brief, so I'm going to summarize some of these slides. So this is the agenda. I'm going to basically talk about the school and what's going on, test scores, and the new things happening at Cunha. Our mission statement is very long, but basically it is focusing on individual students, making sure that they're socially and emotionally healthy and happy, like to come to school, and that that we're focusing on their academic achievement and making sure that they can critically think and preparing them for high school. Basically, the makeup of the school, there are 54 individuals that work at Cunha, 32 certified staff, 30 teachers, 2 counselors. We have 3 administrators that I talked about before. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade are all kind of around 200 students. 40% of those students are free and reduced lunch students. There are about 16% special ed, 13% English learners, and then 2% migrant, 2% homeless. The ethnicity is approximately 55% Hispanic or Latino, 39% white, and then 6% Black, Asian, Pacific Islander. They make up the rest of the ethnicities at Cunha. These are the initiatives that we've been focusing on this year. Mainly, I was a teacher here prior for 4.5 years, and just building a positive school culture. We've had obviously COVID. We've taken some hits over the last few years. I've tried to, James Barnes was the principal before. I've taken a lot of his initiatives and continued those on, and then tried to develop some new ones with the new administrative staff that we have. So building a positive school culture, of course. We have a PBIS plan in place that was left by Mr. Barnes. Thank you, Mr. Barnes. I know he's in the audience here, and we have really Lisa, our assistant principal, comes from a PBIS background, so she really took that, tweaked it a little bit. We're running with it. We're using data to improve student performance, collaborating with teachers to improve their practice. But mainly, I think it is we're able to communicate because there's 3 of us, and we have more bilingual folks. We're able to reach out and talk to parents and community members a lot more effectively this year than probably in previous years with just 2 administrators. These are additional initiatives. We had a Safe School Ambassador program we started at the beginning of the year. We're doing, all 7th graders are gonna have a challenge day. That's gonna be 2 days. We're starting some after school tutoring, and we've just expanding parent connections and community involvement, like Boys and Girls Club, ALAS, ELAC. So we are trying to connect with those people a lot this year. PBIS obviously is focusing on clear expectations for students, restorative justice. So one of our counselors and our assistant principal was trained just the last 2 days in restorative justice. And Victor Guzman, the dean, comes with a very extensive background in restorative justice, which has just really turned around the culture at Cunha this year. And the standard things, school dances, honor roll certificates. We want to do some trips. We have Cub compliments at lunch. We're out there. We have a presence in the morning, at break, at lunch, during unstructured times. I'm a big name guy, so I want to try to remember folks' names, and the 8 adults are out there supervising. I encourage them to learn student names because that really does create an inviting environment. If you're coming to school, somebody knows your name. It's nice. Like that's what I liked about going to school when I was going to school. These are the test scores. So overall, ELA, we're 42% meeting or exceeding the ELA goals. This is a school-wide. Math, it's 26%. This isn't much different when you look at the grade levels. This is ELA. 8th grade's a little bit higher by a couple percents. Math, same thing, 6th and 7th at 25. 8th grade a little bit higher. These are last year's scores. Here's where it goes down. Socioeconomically disadvantaged students, 25% met or exceeded ELA, 11% in math. This is even worse would be our English learners. This is what we need to focus on. 4% of students met or exceeded ELA that were English learners, only 1% in math. The good news is relatively, it's a relative good thing to report is that the students that were reclassified, 33% met or exceeded in ELA, 14% in math. That's higher than the socioeconomically disadvantaged students, but those students and the English learners, we really need to focus on those two groups of students moving forward. Talking about course electives, these are your standard core courses in most middle schools, with the exception of Spanish immersion. We have that here at Cunha. We have 12 electives, but what I want to talk about are the electives that are really doing well this year because of the visual arts and performing arts. We've music elective. We have 2 new music appreciation 6 and music appreciation 7. And Ms. PS has done a great job of introducing students to different musical instruments, and I know in one of the both music appreciation classes, they're kind of doing beginning guitar, and students are really liking that. Also, the crafts and arts elective, which is the visual arts elective, they had so many cool projects. They did a lot of paintings, drawings, developing like 3D figures. They made some bowls. That's what those are pictures of. And then the students designed and created a mural. So we're going to be doing that at the end of each class. That mural we can take down and paint it. But the students designed that mural. The students painted that mural, and it's right outside as you're leaving. You can check it out when you're leaving the MU. Drama. Students do plays. They write the plays, they perform the plays, they make the costumes for the plays, they do the lighting, the music, the makeup, so the drama's a great elective here. Also, the STEAM elective, one of the science, engineering, arts, and math electives, they help the drama elective making props, so it's kind of 2 electives working together. STEAM elective, in addition to making props, which is just a couple days, they do like Arduino boards. They have program robots. Right here is a picture of them making some roller coasters. Mr. Murray does a great job having students involved in several different projects throughout the quarter. The highlight of the electives, I think, this year has been the ag science. That's new this year. For grades 6 and 7, we have a chicken coop, we have a greenhouse, we have potting beds, we have hydroponic growing beds in classrooms, composting, all the different color trash bins like compost, recycling, and landfill trash. If you're walking around the campus, you can see those. That's all the ag science elective doing that, and students really, really like this elective. Then the school plan for student performance overview. I think that there's 4 goals. 3 of them I think we're meeting, and I spoke about a lot of that in the previous slides. The one that we're really, I think we need to focus on, like I said, are the at-promise students, the English learners, and the reclassified students. We need to really do a good job of that. We're starting doing that this semester with, I'm kind of breaking down the test scores from last year, and we're having discussions about that with the core subject areas. And are there any questions? I hope that wasn't too long.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions?
When will the chickens start laying eggs?
That's a great question. I haven't asked that question because now they want a pig.
Oh, well.
Yeah. So I'm not, I know, I'm worried somebody's going to steal the chickens. I'm not kidding.
What's the word for well, if you have a pig, then you have to have the spiders. Anyways, thank you very much for the presentation. And what I see that is a true glow here is the breadth of offerings. It's hard to keep a smaller fish bowl alive than a great big fish tank. And we are a small but mighty district. And I just want to say thank you and thank you to all those teachers leading all of these electives and putting their heart and energies into to the vibrancy of this campus.
And they're going out and getting money. Like Miss Myers and Mr. Murray and Miss PS. They're doing fundraising events. They're asking the CEF. There's community partners that are contributing a lot of money too. And I think it's almost like the pig thing. I hope they don't give them money for that. But but everything else is good.
No, it's thank you for the presentation. And for many years I've had a bias on visual and performing arts and music in particular, and to be that bridge between elementary and high school. So we have a vibrant connection there. And while the VAPA committee retired because we have a plan in place, I just know that that's something that we still have to keep an eye on the prize and make sure we have enough students to feed the pipeline at the high school so that fish tank can stay alive too. So thank you.
All right. Thank you.
I'll just thank you as well. I can't let you sit down. All the glows about and just similarly, like two things that stood out to me. Number one are your focus on the social emotional well-being with the students first and foremost, because when students feel rejected or otherwise not welcome somewhere, they won't perform well in any regard. They'll be acting out or performing poorly on test scores and on tests and academically and everywhere. So I really appreciate your personal care for every student here. So that's number one. And number two, similar to what Kim said, to just think about, and I know this was foundation that was laid last year, so thank you, James, as well, for the diversity of electives. And maybe someday there'll be like electives, like they could choose what they want, I guess, but at least to just have that breadth of experience in different areas from STEAM and Ag Sci is really special here. So I think that feels a nice connection between what they're getting in the elementary schools through the HEAL project partnership and what they have as an opportunity at the high school through Ag Sci CTE. So I appreciate like you're thinking about the whole child. I guess that's part two. It's like the social emotional piece and then the whole child and how you address that academically and how you support what's happening in the classrooms to make sure that they're getting it their whole day here. I really appreciate that. So I don't have questions. I just wanted to make those two comments.
Thank you very much. It's really like we have great teachers here. Like, I'm not kidding you. I was a teacher here, and I wouldn't want to be a principal somewhere where I didn't know the teachers at all. And the reason I stepped up is because I really, really enjoy working with the colleagues that I have here. And we got very, very lucky with Victor and Lisa as the administrators. So I think, it's not me. I think it's a huge team. I'm just steering the ship.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. I wanted to make one comment too, to just tell you how many nice comments I've gotten from people about what's happening at Cunha this year, and specifically about you and your team. So I just wanted to compliment you on that, and thank you for stepping up, because I know it was rough on middle schools in general after COVID, but I have had a lot of people personally come up to me and express their positive comments about the stuff going on at Cunha, and I just want you to know that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, thank you.
Something that people may not know is that Jeff often says it takes teamwork to make the dream work. Did I get that quote right, Jeff? He's constantly saying that, and I will say that I've had the opportunity this year to work with Yolanda Au about the mural, and to see Sonia Myers get that grant over the summer so that she could build what's fantastic over there. She was just sending me pictures of the new, what do you call it, the hothouse, the greenhouse, and the chickens. And I remember having to look at that policy to say, okay, how do we do animals on this campus? I'm not for a pig, but I do want to thank you, Jeff, also for acknowledging your colleagues, the team, your predecessor, Mr. Barnes, kind of you to include him in that. I do think you guys are doing a great thing here. I will say that I was recently meeting with the Boys and Girls Club, with Cabrillo Education Foundation and ALAS to talk about the community hub, and we're working on that MOU. I think that's coming to fruition. I think the Boys and Girls Club partnership has come to fruition. I think it is stronger here. I will say it, some people don't like it. I think it has been a boon and a help to you for us to have the fences to contain the campus for safety and security here, but also just to think about the work that you and Litsa May and Victor do with restorative practices. I heard personally from a parent recently that was a great thing, and I know, again, that PBIS had sort of been laid as a foundation by your predecessor, James, that you're picking it up. This is important. I appreciate your focus on the whole child here. I really do.
Very good, thank you. All right, next item is the approval of student information system replacement.
Members of the board, we're very delighted to bring to for consideration for approval a student information system. At the very core of a student information system is actionable data. What is it that is going to be getting us a child who can read, a child who can write, a child who can advocate for himself, herself, who can advocate for others, and most importantly, that can discern. Now, we need to get some metrics to get all of those things so that we can get that our students are educated students. So we would have fulfilled our obligation to our students by getting the metrics that we can talk, that are actionable, that we can bring, that we can share with our colleagues, and being able to do something about those very issues that have been brought to the board. So are our children achieving? Are they better discerners? How do you know? That is what is at the core of a student information system. And these gentlemen have moved all of the stakeholders to make sure that they have collectively come up with as a recommendation is what is going to be the best for our district and our colleagues. Stig.
Good evening, President Line, board members, Superintendent McPatrice, staff, and community. My name is Stig Lynn. I am the Technology Director. Tonight, the IT department will present our recommendation for a new student data system. To meet the future needs for our school district, we started the process last year to create committees with teachers, staff, administrators, and parents to evaluate different systems. One teacher we have here tonight is Ramon Macias from Hatch. He is one of 7 tech coordinators that we selected last year. They are coming from each site in our school district, and they are very technically interested. Yanis Uranitas.
Uranitsas, right? Did I get it right?
Uranitas, yes. Our system administrator is also a very skilled data expert who has tremendous experience in different SIS system through different schools in San Mateo. So I will let him start our presentation. And after the presentation, we will take any questions, and you can also ask Ramon how the process went. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So, just to give you a little bit of an intro, I've been working in school districts for about 15 years now. Throughout San Mateo County, I've been San Mateo County is close to my heart, so I've tried to stay here. And then the past 2 years with Cabrillo Unified. Next slide, please. Oh, cool. So I'm going to give you a brief background into what the SIS is and the LMS is. The SIS is kind of the central nervous system of all the data that we collect on students. If you want kind of an analogy, it's like all the administrators, staff, and teachers in a school. Whereas the LMS piece of it is a learning management system. That's more like the brick and mortar classes and the books and the online resources and how we manage them. I'm assuming everyone can see the presentation here, but there is a list of all the current software applications we use and kind of an example of how we're fragmented. I'll speak more about the fragmentation later on. So what can IT do? What can I do? What can me, Stig, and our department do besides just software, besides the physical layer, which is our network infrastructure, and our computers? Well, we see the Cabrillo Unified School District Technology Department collaborating with both curriculum and business services, as well as the rest of the departments and the school sites, to provide answers to tough questions. And ultimately to provide a path of actionable data. What's actionable data? Well, it's data that creates a feedback loop. The feedback loops are important because they allow us to test the data, see if that was wrong, and keep on reapplying until we get out of the loop and we can start working on something else. The questions we ask are very dependent, and the answers we get are very dependent on a foundation of technologies. I'll mention some of the foundation of technologies and the questions that we want to focus on. How can we identify and measure the effectiveness of our programs and make sure we're providing equitable access to education for all of our students? This comes from the SIS, the LMS, the attendance, and really kind of the entire package altogether. What about key performance indicators? What have we identified? What have our systems identified? What can machine learning identify that create a plan where we can measure program and intervention effectiveness? And key performance indicators are anything that you identify as being critical in the child's kind of data portfolio. For this, we need a functional and streamlined analytics platform, similar to the state dashboard, but much more focused on our demographics and our uniqueness. How do we measure and improve student, parent, and teacher engagement? It's long been known and researched that parent engagement is a big piece of the student picture. So how do we get more parents engaged? By creating better student portals, parent portals, and communications, really about communications. Right now, the systems we have don't have the ability to crosstalk on language so easily, and that creates a bigger barrier for our district. How do we measure and improve socio-emotional development of our students? And really, how do we individualize education? That's where MTSS systems come into place. How do we provide predictive analytics? How do we catch students earlier? And the predictive analytics part is what can we use with machine learning to find out where students may trend upwards or downwards before they even do it. This is the same type of stuff that Amazon uses to find out what you want to buy before you buy it. And for that, we need an analytics platform, machine learning, and long-term data warehousing. It really depends on longitudinal data, and we're very young when it comes to our data, so this is going to be a very long road. Data must be relevant, complete, secure, and actionable to inform changes to a practice. So this brought us to our kind of our look into getting a new SIS system. So where did we start? We first start with the criteria and the kind of selection process. Which SISs are we going to look at? What are the criteria? The criteria is, of course, our compliance in California, because without compliance in California, we can't continue to operate as a school district. Efficient collection and also of data and system efficiency, both related to how much time are employees spending in the system. The longer they spend in the system, the less time they spend with our students. And then congruency across all platforms. So we want parents to be able to effectively go from system to system without having to fumble too much. Each system has its pros and cons, as it's known, because each system's slightly different. But our focus is to find a partner, someone that'll grow with us and want to grow with us, so we can help make CUSD a beacon of success for all students. We identified 4 main, some of the top California SIS vendors, which include Aries, Power Schools, Synergy, and Infinite Campus. Infinite Campus does not feel like a partner, and that's another reason that we went into this. So a little bit more of our current status with our current tools and platforms. We can't fully foster the partnership between students, families, schools, and the community that is required to ensure student success and equitable access to all district curricula and resources. This obstacle inspired our engagement with others to find a new, better SIS. What is currently slowing down CUSD's progress towards these goals? Severe software fragmentation. Software fragmentation meaning that we have too many different programs, and all these different programs require different logins, require a different set of skills, they're not so intuitive. So parents which already have a hard time learning just how to track their students' attendance are getting lost in this fragmentation. Lack of a centralized database. So we have data over here, data over here, data over here, data over here, and yes, we connect them in a coherent way as best as we can, but in doing so, creating reports becomes more cumbersome. You know, something that can take a couple days, like, hey, tell me how many ELs we have, could take a couple days instead of just a couple minutes. And that's part of that system efficiency part too. And long-term records from a variety of sources, once again leading to that longitudinal basis. Without having long-term mature data, we can't do all the things we set out to do. We have lack of daily teacher engagement. There's a lot of teachers that just, they either like using this software or this software, and once again, it makes it hard for parents, but also because the systems we currently have encumber their ability to effectively do things, they spend too much time, and so they don't update grades as often as they should. They don't update the assignments as often as they should. The sooner we can get those assignments updated, the sooner the parent gets feedback on how their student's doing, and the sooner we can intervene. And that leads into the parent-guardian engagement. Current systems do not provide a satisfactory solutions. So that brings us to our process. This is kind of the dry stuff, but the process was to identify the vendors and selection criteria, create committees to verify our work, and kind of move forward, demo the products, gather feedback on these demos, then go back, rank them, do an interview with some of the top selections, and then the final recommendations. The committees were comprised of our site tech coordinators, the 7 that Stieg mentioned, support staff, so that's anybody who's a daily SIS user, admin, so on and so forth. Administrators, all CUS directors were included, and then our parents and guardians were also included. One PTO leader was from each site. Something to highlight really quick is that we have 2 site tech coordinators from the high school just because of the size of the high school in comparison. We thought it would be a little more effective at getting information across. Demos and meetings, we had 12 primary demos, 4 from each vendor, which targeted the different subgroups. We had a supplemental demo, which was the LMS focused. That was only for the top choice at the end. To get more clarity, because the general overview, and I'll get more into depth in the final there. After we collected all the data, it was, okay, this is kind of 1, 2, and 3, but 2 will become 1 if we can't see more of the system and we don't like more of the system. So, and then there was 3 additional discussion meetings that we had with the site tech coordinators. And they were the ones really, we pumped all the data into them and they made kind of the final choices. Each group had 1 survey. We received 6 parent responses and 35 internal responses on the survey. We initially only opened it up to the site tech coordinators, and then we opened it up to the all the teachers as a whole. And that was kind of to get the site tech coordinators to get excitement from our teachers. Final, our ranking was in this order: Power Schools, Synergy, then Aries. And then we did the interviews of the 2 California districts for the top candidate, which was Power Schools. We wanted to choose 1 long established and 1 recent transfer from Infinite Campus. After kind of collating all this information and going through everything, we made a final recommendation, or actually the site tech coordinators made a final recommendation, and that's what we're bringing to you tonight. And that final recommendation was Power Schools. The reason for Power Schools is because they have unified and congruent systems, so we can start developing that intense data connections. One of the nation's top LMS platforms, Schoology. The only other one that rates kind of around them is Canvas, but Canvas is very focused on higher education, whereas Schoology was built for K-12. Systems that scale and are deeply integrated. So all of Power School's products share a very deep API connection, so it's not like sending data back and forth overnight. It's more like it's instant. And then a robust communications platform, which allows for on-the-fly language translations, interlanguage translations. So a parent can send in Spanish, teacher will receive in English, teacher will send in English, and the parent will receive in Spanish, further increasing our parent engagement. Our inter-district interviews comprised of Redondo Beach, which did a recent migration from Infinite Campus, and Visalia Unified, which has a long-established Power School user. Excuse me. So this brings us to kind of how are we going to do this? How are we going to pull this off? Unfortunately, we can't pull it off all in 1 year. I'd love to. I love moving fast. I'm always the type of person who likes to run before they can crawl. It really freaked out my parents a lot of the times, but I'm that way. And but unfortunately, because the systems we're talking about are so big and they require so much kind of connection, we have to do it in kind of a tiered approach to make sure that we're doing it correctly. Year 1, We're going to focus on the SIS, Unified Communications, Schoology, which is the LMS, and online registration. That covers compliance, and that covers teacher tools. This includes data imports, kicking off the training of the trainer programs, training of teachers and administrators, and testing and establishing state and federal reportings. Year 2, once we established the base systems, we add on Unified Insights and Performance Matters. Unified Insights is the analytics platform that'll do the machine learning, and Performance Matters is the assessment platform, which will hopefully replace Illuminate DNA. This will help us define and generate KPI data, our key performance indicators, analyze, report, and disseminate that information so that the board as well as our district leaders can make informed decisions. And then year 3, possibly also in year 2, because it's more a adjacent add-on rather than a full system add-on, is the MTSS system, which is multi-tiered systems of support. That would help us fine-tune our KPIs because MTSS is really about individualizing education and finding out what's different between that student and how they learn. And then, of course, fine-tuning our actionable data reporting. That brings us to the big kind of important question is funding. Did you want to speak to that, Jesus, or would you like me to? Okay.
Because of the different features that we are going after in this SIS, we are able to multi-fund this. We are going to be going after these different implementation years, different costs that we have in here based on what is that the functions that are going to be giving us data for learning. We can work with Leticia and seeing what parts of that funding we can use for that. So that my goal is to impact as little as possible as I can the general fund by using other funds. So this is the numbers that we are looking at from this year into 25-26, and again, based on functions, will be the funding, multi-funded.
And just to clarify, because I know it kind of looks like, oh, it gets more expensive or cheaper than more expensive, but it's because we are approaching it. In order to give us steep discounts, they needed to group all of it together as part of a package. So kind of how the funding breaks down is it doesn't, those additional things that are going to happen in year 2 don't come into effect in year 2. And so that's kind of how it's broken down. Just to clarify that a little bit. And with that kind of brings us to the end of our presentation. Our gratitude to all stakeholders involved. It was quite a long process. We really started about a year and a half ago, kind of talking about it. And then this past year, it kind of got to the point where in August, me, Stieg, Leticia kind of discussed that this needs to start to happen. So we made a dive into it, did our best, and this is what we have. So thank you, everyone. And then thank you to the site tech coordinators. There was more that wanted to be here tonight to kind of help field any questions if needed. But thank you, Ramon, for coming. Anyway, is there any questions?
Thank you so much. We'll open it up to questions.
I don't have questions, but I just have a comment. Well, first of all, it's good to meet you. I've been in the board, and half of the time I'm like, who's that? I always will pull one of the board members or the superintendent. So thank you for being here. And I just have to say, you hit the nail on the head with all the challenges for the community, especially for people who are not fluent in English. And it's a lot of work. I'm not when you said it's going to take a while, I completely understood. But the fact that you guys are starting to get this going and you have addressed some of the really key important factors where parent communication is very important, but there's a lot of challenges that go along with it. So thank you so much for that. And just thank you for being here. Thank you, like always, Stig, and thank you for everything you guys do.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Obviously, this has been a lot of heavy lifting. I have two questions. First, what was the feedback, not from the tech teachers, but from the other teachers? I mean, did they get their hands on it and get to test and provide feedback on usability?
So all the, as far as doing demos, like live demos and getting their hands on it, that was something that the vendors didn't really care to give us access to because of the intellectual property that they're trying to protect. So, but because we did open it to all teachers, we sent them all the videos, we sent them all the survey links. We did get a limited number of responses because they're like, well, you know, we have to do this on our own time. And but there was a lot. So that's where the site tech coordinators came in, and they were directed to be liaisons. Go to your teachers, ask them, hey, you know, write down a couple notes, bring it back. And so that's how we did most of our kind of ancillary teacher support.
Okay, so it's 2.5 questions. Were there any reservations or any feedback that gave them any concerns?
No, the only concerns that was ever mentioned specifically about Power Schools was we want to see more of the LMS. We want to see more of the LMS because the teachers are going to, and the teachers which are really driving this, since they know their students the best, they know. They really wanted to see the LMS. And so that's why we scheduled the additional meeting. The Power Schools was within a few hours, I got the meeting scheduled for like the following week after our comeback from winter break.
Okay. Okay, 2 questions more.
I asked one.
Yeah, go ahead, Stig.
About your question there about other teachers.
Stig, can you get closer to them?
Yeah, sorry. What comes down to other teacher, when teacher find out about the process we are doing, we get a lot of response from teachers who have worked in other school districts. And the last week was one teacher, is like, when he found out that we're going to recommend Power School, he was up over his ear. He like, yes. So the response we got from other, and even administrators, is that please go with Power School. And it's like, it's very user-friendly, especially the LMS Schoology, how the teacher work and grades and interact with the Google Classroom and all that. So then the whole thing is good.
Awesome. Will archive data come into this system?
So the idea is to probably bring in 3 years of data the first year, 3 to 5 years, depending on the workflow, and then slowly bring in the more mature data.
And the reason I'm one of a board member with children who have been out of the system, but I was a parent as data was being collected on correlations between being in these classes and what the outcome was for students. So, and that was a decade ago. So, and things change over time. You know, whatever is the new shiny flavor, this is what we're trying next.
That data will be used to seed the initial machine learning.
Okay.
So that data is still very important to the district. We're still dealing with a very unique community here.
Okay.
And so, yes, all that data will be used to mature our data going forward.
And I guess my last question, I promise, is, and it's less about the system, but more about the culture and expectation for when data is populated. Because if there's a lag time, and I experience this with my own children, if there's a lag time of 3 weeks, you get caught off guard. You see it, a decision's being made, and you think someone has a particular average, and then, oops, they populate 3 more weeks of data.
Yep.
And
So
so that's, how, I'm going to guess that now teachers are probably more online data entry savvy than a decade ago. So.
They are. In general, that's part of the reason why, because that we went forward with this project, is because teachers were having a hard time with data entry. And the only thing I can say to that is that when we go through this process, there's going to be a lot of processes that we examine, a lot of things we look at. We can't expect them to enter in all the time if we don't train them effectively. We can't expect them to enter in all the time if we don't give them the resources to do it effectively. So it's really going to come down to how we plan and manage and move forward, but that is the goal. The goal is to try to establish some sort of benchmark for when the district and the community expects kind of grades to be updated.
I just want to thank you and just to appreciate and acknowledge the expertise that you all bring to the table with this subject. Just seeing your presentation, even coming into this, I was like, this is going to be good, because I could tell, and hearing you speak, Yanis, and Stig, I've always commended you for this as well, and Jesus as well. Like, I'm so thrilled to have an IT and operations team that not only understands their specific areas of technology, but you guys understand education, and you understand management, and you understand analytics, and you understand equity. And to hear an IT presentation that brings all that together with a unified solution that will be good for students, it'll be good for families, it'll be good for staff, everybody, is really actually super exciting. So I just want to send you all a big thanks for bringing that expertise, and for Ramon and others who stretch from their core job to take on an additional responsibility, and hopefully had fun with the experience as well, in working with a fun team here to really do this and make it happen. So it's funny, because I think if anyone would have asked 5 years ago, well, would we have been looking at this? I mean, I think even 3 years ago, we weren't really using technology that much relatively, right? And it was the pandemic that kind of threw us into the deep end of we had to, right? For a year, we were in remote learning. And so you guys did such a great job of putting a quilt together. And now I feel like you're kind of crocheting the blanket now, and it's uniform, and it has a design, and it's going to take a while, but we're going to get there, and it's going to be warm, and it's going to be beautiful, and 10 other things. So I'm really thrilled and excited, and it just goes to show how, we never would have thought 5 years ago we needed this, but schools are doing so much. Even thinking about your points about security, right? Again, who would have thought about, really gave some thought to data security in schools until the last few years. And then you hear about these massive data breaches at LA Unified and others, and that's terrible. So to have people that are monitoring that and building systems that will avoid having our data released, in inappropriate ways, I think is underappreciated, but super important as well. So thank you for that too. And I did have some questions as well.
Before we ask more questions, I forgot that this is an action item.
Oh, yes.
Can we have a motion in a second?
Thank you so much, Rosie. So do we have a motion? And a second?
Second.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Lisette, and
Thank you so
Kim.
much, Rosie, for keeping us on track. See, the expert in parliamentary procedure. Thank you so much. So I do have a couple questions. One, I was trying to understand, so also to just say your process how it was laid out, and clear and inclusive and thoughtful, also was very much appreciated too. One question I had is when do you anticipate the modules will start to get used? When will students start to see, or families start to see? Is it that year 4?
When
hard
they'll
question?
start to get really into the system, like the LMS and all of that? Or are you
Yeah.
talking more like the
When's the launch, the software launch, if you will?
August?
Oh, okay. So what are we rolling out in August?
In August will be the SIS, the primary
okay.
SIS, which will be attendance, behavior, everything that's tied to the student as far as data.
Okay.
The LMS, which is Schoology, that'll kind of replace, hopefully, the teachers that are still using Google Classroom. Google Classroom, we really want to be secondary to the primary LMS. And then online registration, of course, because we'll need that to continue registering our students. And the communications platform. We want to get that grounded as soon as possible to get parents as used to it as we move forward.
So all those will be launching this August?
This August.
Okay, great.
That is the hope.
Okay, so the longer term stuff is more like the back end analytics and reporting and data cleaning and
Yes.
data imports and, okay, that's,
So
okay.
we really want to make sure, and why kind of a longer approach is we really want to make sure as far as the data is concerned, our data over the past 3 years is way cleaner than our data going back 10, 15 years. So it's going to take a lot of time to kind of cleanse it and pull in the appropriate data and points moving forward.
Okay, and you started to address this, but I'm curious, like all those other systems that you showed in the other page, like when and how they'll be phasing out. So you spoke to Google Classroom, like will Google Classroom go away?
No, it'll be supplemental instead of focus.
Okay.
The teachers, the idea is not to impede the teacher's ability to teach. It's really to give them the tools to augment their teaching.
Okay. And then, I guess Infinite Campus probably will go away sooner rather than later because that's going to be wholly replaced.
That's going to be fully replaced. So Infinite Campus would be, to be honest with you, the contracts are year to year. I don't know if we can get a month to month. There's a couple things we still got to work on. But the contract expires in July. So that's kind of what we're shooting for to decommission Infinite Campus.
Okay. And then decommissioning School Loop, I guess, will happen over the summer as well?
Yes.
Functionally, if not contractually.
Yes.
Illuminate Education, I guess that's TK, I don't know how we're using that now, but that'll phase out.
That'll phase out. Not too sure about certain things regarding that, but either this year or the following year. More than likely when we bring on the Performance Matters, which is the assessment in year 2.
And that's the Illuminate DNA, the analytics one, or?
Illuminate DNA, so DNA stands for Data and Analytics, but they don't do analytics.
Okay.
It's Data and Assessment, not Data and Analytics.
Okay.
So their system's really a data collection tool.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then School Messenger, I guess, will phase out also in August?
Yes.
Okay, so most of them August, just Classroom may linger a bit, but I would imagine over time, once everyone's using the other tool, Power School, I got to remember that name, for like everything else, like who's going to want a second tool?
Well, and the idea is to start building the culture from elementary so that, even in kindergarten and first grade, some of the teachers were excited looking at Schoology. Oh, we can use that. We can use that. And the idea is really to build out that capacity. So by the time they're in those really kind of transitional years, typically in middle school, that the parents already know how to get into the systems. They already know, what's going on.
Yeah, I just want to add there too that one thing today is that parents have, if they have a kid at elementary, middle school or high school, it's like they have 3 different login. The parents going to have one login, they're going to see all their students, wherever grade they're going in. So that's another thing that's going to be much more easy for the parents.
Go ahead, Lizette.
Well, I know Mr. Macias is here, and I'd like to hear how the process was for you as a teacher.
Hello. Honestly, I think this is the ones we decided to go with. It's just they're a lot easier to manage from the teacher perspective, in my opinion. And I think we all agree on that. It's a lot, of course, but it's easy to manage. And also when we asked about the students' perspective, the nice thing is that, for example, K2, they have very limited options. 3, 4, 5, they start getting more options. Once they go to middle and high school, they have, the whole thing available for them. So it is according to the grade level, the things that they can access. So it's also about the students, not just about, the things that I can do. But for my perspective, if I were to teach middle school, again, I don't want to, I can create assignments in the same platform. I don't have to go to different, I don't have to go to Google Classroom anymore. And that's an option, but I don't have to do that. And students will log in. They can access all the assignments in the same, in one place instead of going to multiple passwords or multiple sites. So it will be a lot easier for them to manage too. And so.
Quick question for you two. I don't know, Mr. Macias, if you had thoughts about this, but I know a concern I've heard in the past about transitioning learning management systems is that, especially at the high school level, a lot of teachers have invested so much in like putting everything on School Loop or putting everything on Google Classroom. How are we supporting that transition? I mean, for some it would be a bigger transition than others.
Correct, and that was one of the main questions from one of the high school teachers. Yeah. And in Google Classroom, everything's saved like in our drive, right? Yeah. So we can actually still access the same documents, and they can be uploaded to this learning management system.
Okay, so just kind of transfer them over to.
Exactly, they can be uploaded there too.
And it's pretty easy to do that.
Yes, it should be. Yeah, it will take some training, but it will be.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, thank you. I'm glad that was thought through. All right, any other questions, comments? Yes.
Oh, give me a second. Okay. Lizette, you asked about teachers too, and just so you know, I did receive a comment on email. That's what I was saying in my opening. You weren't here actually. That I did receive a comment from one of the teachers, a different teacher on the committee, asking that I please approve it because they liked it as well. So there's another teacher insight for you. My question is about the funding. Maybe that's more for Jesus. I just wonder, when we see these numbers, I assume we're going to be stopping other things. So is that true?
That is correct. As I mentioned, and we evolved into this system, and they will have it as a sandbox. They're going to start their sandbox. If you approve it tonight, they'll have it this spring so that they can have the time to decommission other things that we're using right now.
So the numbers shouldn't be as high as what we're seeing if you take out
if we take into consideration that we will not be spending on other systems.
Okay.
Something I would like to add to that is that, so all in all, I'm looking long-term. So hopefully, this, I believe this recommendation or this approval is for 3 years, but let's just look 10 years down the road. We will end up going the opposite direction, meaning that the programs we're supporting right now are actually more expensive than the long-term use of PowerSchool. So it'll even give us a little more capability in that we can look at even more of PowerSchool suite to enhance our products.
Is that because it's more one thing rather than all these little things?
And because of the steep discounts we got.
Oh, okay.
So,
good job. Yeah. Good job. Thank you for all that you've done. And I want to thank everyone on the committees that stepped up to look into all this too, because it's very important. So thank you.
It was something that was very kind of overwhelming at first. I remember when I came in, Jesus mentioned, "Hey, Giannis, you're singing the song we want to hear. How are we going to get there?" And I'm like, we got to look at our SIS, and everybody just kind of looked at me like, we've tried. Like, good luck, Giannis. And I approached Dr. Bhatia about it, and she's like, that's huge, Giannis, huge. And I'm like, I'll me and Stieg will work on it. We just need support from admin, and they gave us all the support we needed. And so we were able to pretty much knock all of this out in about 4 months. So now starts the real heavy lifting.
That's amazing. Woohoo is all I got to say. So thank you.
Because for sure, when you have systems architecture with like 10 different pieces that weren't designed to work together, that's a mess. It's never going to work. And it's super, not only in terms of like software license fees, but also in terms of your time and how, and our, what we're able to use your time for. It's not the best use of your time to be, I know some of those analytics you were doing were like, Excel sheets, basically lining things up. I'd rather that your guys are doing this with a unified solution, and in the end, for sure, there's going to be cost savings.
There's a hidden cost savings, and that is the time that
The
we
staff
spend. It's really hard to quantify, so that's why we couldn't really provide numbers on like, the district's going to save this much. But
Well, it's also like that hidden cost savings of if we're doing our job better, we need less on top of what we're doing, right? And when the core is working more smoothly and more effectively, you need less remediation. And so, I think that's exciting too.
I just have to say about Yanis and the times that I have gone and say, Yanis, how can we get the data machine to operate and do this and this? And Yanis is a data purist. So he would give me some data, and I said, but I don't feel very comfortable about giving you this data because it is less than 2%, or it's 2% different than this other set of data. And he's like that, and they said, but now he has a tool where he can say that he trusts the data.
To speak to that really quick, each system, every time you move data into a system, they all have their own idiosyncrasies, and they all have a different cleansing process. And in that cleansing process, when you import data into a new system, you can lose some stuff, you can add some stuff. Some things may error one system, not the other. So what you end up doing is getting all your ELs from Infinite Campus. Okay, 300, great. And then you go into Illuminate and you're like 292. Huh. And then you go into the next system and it's 142 and you're like, all right, let's average them. Just playing. So I don't want to, and I've approached all the administrators about this, and that's what's kept them. All right, keep looking, Giannis. Keep your eyes open. Stay thirsty. So.
Great. Well, thank you so much, you guys. We appreciate that, and I guess we are ready to go to vote. Rosie.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. It passes 5+1. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
If I can, I just want to say thank you, Stig, thank you, Yanis, thank you, Ramon, and our other site tech coordinators, which I think included Kurt Murray and Joseph Santoni and Graham Westwood. Did I get these right? Yes. And I want to say, too, that I really appreciate the same thing as Mr. Clinton was saying about the dream work, or the teamwork makes the dream work. Yanis did approach me at the beginning of the year saying, I know how this goes if you're going to have this much engagement. But I think there's that old African expression. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. The fact that you guys went together, this was textbook. That was the correct engagement. I appreciate Ramon, you and your colleagues participating and serving as like boundary spanners and that connective glue with your colleagues. And I think this is going to be much better for families, for students, and for staff, and for our bottom line going forward. So thank you so much for the work you've done.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. All right, item 6, future events. February 9th is our next regular board meeting back here at Cunha Intermediate, multipurpose room at 6 p.m. And with that, we will convene we will adjourn to closed session. But first, just a quick check. Do we have any public comments on closed session topics?
No, we didn't. We did have a teacher come in to comment, but they missed the earlier public comment, and it was not about this item. So no, it does not look like we do.
Okay, so with that, then we will adjourn to closed session in a private room or confidential room across the way. And
we're going to go to the library, yeah.
And then we'll come back here to officially adjourn the meeting overall, correct? All right.
That's right.
So adjourned to closed session. I don't know if I